This is Rif Yomi Beitza Daf Chaf Hey Amid Aleph. So the Gemara here starts. Amar Rabba bar Rav Huna Amar Rav. Hasochar Masamayim Erev Yom Tov. Somebody plugged the canal of water from Erev Yom Tov, and once you plug the canal, no more fish could get in. And the next morning he wakes up early and he sees that there are fish inside of there. Mutarim, they're permitted. Because they had already been trapped from Erev Yom Tov, and therefore they're considered muchan, they're not considered muksa. Continuing, if you have a wild animal that nests, that moves into an orchard and it lives there, to go in ayil utzvi, such as a hart or a gazelle, something like that. V'yaldu afarim, and they had young, they gave birth to young. And these young are still very small. And therefore they don't need capture. It's very easy to get a hold of them. You don't need prior designation. And they're permitted on Yom Tov to grab them and shach them and then eat them. But this is specifically an orchard which is juxtaposed, is in proximity to the city. Because then it's fit for him. Because his mind is on them. But if you have an orchard which isn't right next to the city, then in such a case we do need this prior designation. This is only for them, for the young. But for their mother, you would need to hunt them and trap them and capture them in order to be able to shach them. Even prior designation wouldn't help for making them not muksa. Going on to the Mishnah. Behema mesukenes, a dangerously ill animal. Lo yishchot elim kein yodea sheyachal lechem min kazayis slimi ba'od yom. You shouldn't slaughter it on Yom Tov unless you know that you'll be able to eat an olive's measure. That's a minimum amount roasted. That's a very short amount of time to prepare it. While it's yet day on Yom Tov. In other words, if it's a behem mesukenes, if it dies of itself, then it's not going to be kosher. So you want to shecht it now in order to save all of that meat, such that people could eat it instead of having to cast it to the dogs, for example. So what we're saying here is that you're allowed to shecht it on Yom Tov, so long as you you do have time to eat some kazayas of it, prepared, a small amount of it prepared in the minimum amount of time. So that's the Tanakama. And Rabbi Akiva Omer, afilu kazayas chai mibeis tfichasa. You don't actually need to even roast it, but if you take from the makom hashchita, on the neck, actually they had this practice and it was considered somewhat healthy to do, to take that raw meat and eat it. So if you took a kazayas, an olive's measure of that, that would be sufficient if you have enough time to eat it then. Shachatab basadeh. Let's say you slaughter it in the field, this animal. Lo yavienu b'motu v'mosa. You shouldn't bring it to his house via a pole or via a litter. These are things carried by two people, in the way you would typically carry some kind of slaughtered animal. He should bring it limb by limb in his hand. Going on to Chafei Amid Beis, the Gemara. Tano Rabbanan. Ein hasumi yotzeb maklo, v'lo haroa b'tarmilo. A blind man, this is the Brisa. A blind man may not go out with his stick, his walking stick, nor a shepherd with his pouch. Ve'ein yotzin b'kisei, and you can't go out in this seat. This is a kind of carried seat. Echad ha'ish ve'echad ha'isha. Whether a man or a woman, you can't go out in this seat. V'im hayu rabim tzrichin lo, mutar. But in terms of this seat, if the public needs him, it's permitted.